Good evening. I'm KHU11 meteorologist Chris Ramirez with your tropics update for the day. We do have some developments out in the Atlantic basin. We have two areas that we're watching out in the Atlantic Ocean. These are areas that are pretty far away from Houston and the U.S., but it's just something to keep an eye on, especially as we track these tropical waves that are coming off from Africa. And so we have one area that has a 20% chance of development, and then we have another area that has a 40% chance of development within the next 7 days. It's this area that you see highlighted in orange in the mid-Atlantic. And so something to keep an eye on is that as we take a look at our future track model, we do have a little bit of a flare-up that's going to be happening within the next few days, especially closer to Africa. Again, this is very far away from the U.S. and from Houston, but we are expecting it to sort of flare up into something, as our models are indicating, as we go into the next several days. There's a lot of factors here to really keep an eye on, especially as we head into the next few days. We still have some Saharan dust in the Atlantic. We have a lot of wind shear across closer towards the Caribbean. And so it's going to be interesting to see how all of that plays a role at maybe possibly breaking up this system or causing it to weaken. But of course, very far away out in the mid-Atlantic, and that could be making its way into the central Atlantic by Saturday of next week. Take a look at that dust. This is that dust that really does prevent the tropics from being active. We have a pretty big plume of this dust that is making its way across the Atlantic and off the coast of Africa. So as we go into the next few days, this little plume is going to make its way into the Gulf. That's going to head towards Houston, and it really eventually bring us some hazy skies once again, especially as we head into this next Friday. So we have a little bit of a flare up that could happen, but of course, once you have that dust layer there, it really does a good job at tearing those systems apart and really prevent them from being all that strong going into the next few days. There's also wind shear. Wind shear, we've been talking about this all hurricane season. It is the winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere, and what that does is that really does a great job at tearing systems apart as well. It's looking likely, as I take a look at our latest wind shear model, is that we're not looking at much wind shear here in the Gulf, and but you do have a little bit off the South Florida and portions around that Bermuda high that's off the East Coast U.S. And so if that system comes into contact with that wind shear, it could also play a role at tearing that system apart as well. But I think we're a little bit too early to tell if that system's going to make its way closer to the East Coast as it makes its way and just stays over the central Atlantic. But just keep in mind that as we head into August and September, we have to really keep an eye on the development zone. So anything that really does form just to the east of the Leeward Islands, this is in the Caribbean, of course you have Houston right here, this is the Caribbean, anything that forms in this region that we have to really pay close attention to, because if it takes more of that northerly track, of course, it'll stay off the East Coast U.S. You have a Bermuda high that usually sets up off the East Coast that sort of just causes those systems to swing around and off to the north and stay away from the U.S. However, if it takes more of a southerly track, just south of the island of Hispaniola, south of Cuba, this is where we really have to start keeping an eye on that, especially for us here across the Gulf Coast and for the Houston area. So, of course, we're too early to tell if that system's going to survive that journey closer toward the Leeward Islands, but it's going to be interesting to see how that Saharan dust and that wind shear is going to play a factor with this particular system. It's not named yet. Of course, this is something that the models are only indicating in the next few days, but it's something to keep an eye on, especially as we head into August and September. September being that peak date, and so as we look at those most likely tracks there going into the next couple of months, we also have to pay attention to what forms out here just north of South America. So we usually have some systems that could originate in this vicinity north of Panama, and they usually take a more northerly track that could, impact the Yucatan Peninsula and portions of the Gulf Coast, especially as we head into September. So we have two development zones in September. We have the one that's happening that we were tracking in August, which is what happens near the Leeward Islands, and then we also have a little bit of a gyre here that usually loves to spit out some storm activity, especially during the month of September. And so that's something that we have to keep an eye on, especially as we go closer to that September 10th date, which is the peak of hurricane season. So we are right here. We have September 10th is that peak of hurricane season. We've had quite significant storms and landfalling hurricanes in the month of September. We had Rita, Katrina. We also had Ike that happened back in 2008. And so September is that date, or that month rather, to really keep an eye on those potential storms and the hurricane hurricane season, because that's what we usually see most of the activity. We've already only had 2 named storms this season for the 2026 Atlantic hurricane season. We had Arthur and Bertha, and our next name on the list will be Cristobal. It's not certain if that system that we were tracking that was in the central Atlantic is going to really stay strong and form into something, but with the latest update from the National Hurricane Center, especially within the past few hours, they have upgraded that other little area that we were looking at to a 40%. It was at a 30% this morning. Now we're at a 40%. And we also have another little area with a 20% chance of development within the next 7 days. So 2 little areas that we're tracking here as we go into the next few days. And the only thing that we're keeping an eye on, especially as we head into the next few days, is these little waves that are just moving off the coast of Africa. And we have one little close off low that's going to want to form, especially as we head into next Friday. So by Friday, could be looking at this little system right here. However, that's closer to Africa, and that's a good long way from now. So it's going to be interesting to see if that system is going to really survive this long journey into the Caribbean or to near the Leeward Islands, like I was just showing you. So if it does survive that, then that's something that we're going to have to keep an eye on. But too early to tell if that system is going to be anything. There's a lot of factors here that are against it. We have the Saharan dust. We also have the wind shear that's currently out in the near just south of Florida there. So taking a look at that, we are looking at also lots of dust in the vicinity across the Atlantic. Another big plume making its way into Cuba and Puerto Rico, and then also into the Gulf. That will bring us some hazy skies. But as long as that dust is there, that really does a great job at preventing those systems from being all that strong. And it does a great job at tearing those tropical systems apart. So it could run into that as well. So too early to tell whether that system is going to survive that long journey. But that's what we're looking at here for the next several days. The only thing that we're going to have to keep an eye on here across the Houston area is the return of more showers and storms during those afternoon hours for tomorrow and into Sunday and into Monday. Monday is going to be the day that we're going to see more of that rain chance. However, after Monday, we're going to once again be impacted by the heat dome that's going to settle in across Texas. That's going to keep us mostly sunny and dry starting on Tuesday and through the middle of next week. And so just it's going to also bring back the heat with those high temps in the upper 90s. We're not going to be seeing these cooling conditions from the storms, especially as we head into the next several days. And that's when you're going to see those temps warm on up, especially as we head into next week. So definitely keep that in mind. Here's your 7-day forecast. High temps in the 90s, lows in the 70s. We still have a storm chance for tomorrow and into Monday. That rain chance more so isolated starting on Tuesday through the rest of the week, but we also have those temps warming up into the upper 90s for the middle and into next weekend. So that's what we're looking at in terms of our weather forecast and also with the tropics. But just to kind of recap here, what we started off our tropics with is the fact that we do have 2 little areas that we're tracking across the mid-Atlantic, but these are closer to Africa. But now we're getting into that time of the year where we're going to start seeing those waves move off the coast of Africa and into the Atlantic, which can ultimately survive that long track into the Caribbean. But this one right here has a 40% chance of development. Of course, very far away, too early to tell whether or not it's going to survive the long journey, but it's also an important reminder that we are heading closer to that September 10th date, which is the peak of hurricane season. And also keep in mind that hurricane season lasts until November 30th. That is our tropics update and our weather conditions here across Southeast Texas. So make sure to tune in a little under an hour for the KHOU 11 news at 10 p.m. I, along with anchor Cheryl Mercedes, will be giving you the latest news and, of course, weather headlines. Have a good and safe rest of your evening.